Hello, my friends. Many times in the past I've used the term paradigm shift and talked about the fact that we're in the middle of such an event. This is an often misunderstood term, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about it. The word is paradigm, spelled Paradigm, and some people call it paradigm, and they don't realize that the name is that the word is pronounced paradigm. You're familiar with it if you are, because an old friend of mine named Joel Barker popularized it many decades ago and did movies about it and so on, and used it mostly in terms of business and government agencies and so on. And in the same way that some people mispronounce the word, they misunderstand it. It's commonly used to connote large change or significant change, but it has a much deeper kind of meaning, and it's the context, and that's the context in which I use it. Paradigm, in its fundamental sense, means the framework, the logical framework with which you make sense out of reality. It's the structure and the logic and all of the component parts that all come together to allow you to make sense out of what's going on. It's essentially about the patterns and the shapes. Sense making is all about patterns and relationships and such. And what a paradigm is your own, and most everybody has their own. I mean, because we all have different experiences and we come and we see the world in a different way. And so it's our own kind of framework for staying sane. Because when you lose the ability to kind of make sense out of the reality that you live in, that's a pretty good definition of insanity. And so when your paradigm changes, then it's quite a significant thing to try to deal with that change. We all know about experiences with that in personal kind of terms, when there's a death in the family or a divorce or a loss of a job or move to a new location. You have to reconfigure and rebuild all the relationships and the stuff that you use to make it familiar and comfortable again. And that then kind of settles down into a paradigm that you would then have. And it's one thing to do it on a kind of a personal basis, but when the change starts to get larger and larger in institutional terms or government or social society terms, social terms, or in terms of a whole world, then you got really, really big deal. Because the natural inclination, of course, is to keep all of these things consistent and kind of predictable. I mean, all of our institutions, all of our methods, all of the way in which we live is to try to get enough predictability that you can do some planning and you can deal with the world that's coming your way. And it's when huge surprises come or some other kind of things that are highly disruptive that really changes the paradigm, because it reworks the way you look at things. That is what's really disruptive in our lives. And so everything is kind of oriented toward kind of keeping things the same way that they've been in the past. That's a problem in the coming years, or an issue at least, because the next dozen years or 10 years or so have all of the indications of being some of the most extraordinary change in all of history, certainly as we understand it. And what that means is that you have got to somehow get out in front of all of this stuff such that you have input that you can weave together into a new sense of reality, so that you're not completely confused and out of time and out of money and all those kinds of things. And that's what we're going to be talking about in this vlog in the upcoming months and maybe even years. Is what's coming downstream and where it's maybe headed toward. What's the new paradigm? What's the new world that could show up? Could be one of a number of ones, depending upon who you are and where you live and what decisions that you make. But it isn't going to be the same as it is now. And it's going to be a fundamental shift. And what you have to become is permeable. You have to become open to the new ideas that will populate this new kind of perspective of how the world works. Because if you don't, if you hang on to the old stuff, then you can't deal with the new world, because this one is exponential, and so it's taken off like crazy. And what you have to effectively do is learn how to surf this thing, and what that means is constantly change. If you use the metaphor as a surfer, you've got to constantly be riding that wave and adjusting to all of the small kind of changes and work yourself into this new kind of space. So that's what we're going to be doing, and we're going to look forward to it, and we're going to play into the middle of this paradigm shift. So we'll see you.